honestly just the most curious person. I like to get to know people. I like to get into it. And maybe let's jump right in with, people always ask me, I created the Neuro Studio with my business partner, but created all these movement methodologies for people with neurological conditions. And they assume like I have this really heart-wrenching story about why I'm there. And could not be more of the opposite. And I share this because you don't have to be like super unique to be you. So as my story goes, I had a Pilates studio in Hoboken, New Jersey. I had just finished my master's. I got my undergrad at University of Scranton, went right into a master's at Columbia. And the reason I chose Columbia was because it was closer to home and it had a good name, although there were other schools with less names that had a better program. But from a business standpoint, saying a master's from Columbia spoke a little louder. I didn't enjoy my master's experience. I don't feel like I learned much, except one course I took on motivational interviewing. I found it interesting, right? I had a real strong undergrad at University of Scranton in exercise science. Dr. Dixon, such a great professor. I'm so grateful for him. But anyway, after my master's, I did not know what I wanted to do. So I was teaching Pilates and I loved it and I was very good at it. I taught it at Scranton and it was like one of the most popular classes on campus. My guy friends used to come to check out all the girls. There was 50, it was just a big, big thing. So long story, probably longer, is a physical therapist called me and I would get a lot of referrals. This is back in 2006. Because I had a master's degree as a Pilates teacher, they just like assumed I was better, which was probably not the case. And she asked me if I worked with MS. And I said, with the arrogance of a 24-year-old, of course I do. And then I hung up the phone and had to Google what is MS. And that's how it all started. Me just being confident in my skills that I would figure it out, and then doing the research after. And what was so mind-boggling is there was no information. It was like basic stretches. And I'm like, well, if this is happening and there's demyelination and I was going through all the things. I was like, how could stretching be helpful? And I was never a believer in stretching anyway. My take on stretching, I say everybody has a butthole. This is my butthole, is when you feel a stretch in the tissue, we are told to stretch that more. And I believe that means that tissue is being stretched and we have to invite other people to the party. That was how I worked with my body, with my athletes, with everybody else. So from there, I was like, I need to figure this out because I don't know what to do. And in that, I made a lot of mistakes, worked with a lot of great people, listened, kept my mouth shut when I knew they were doing things wrong, and then just did my own thing and literally went through the back door. And I'm kind of the world-regarded person for MS and movement, because I never gave up and figured like, I've got to figure something out, and just never took no for an answer. I met my business partner later. She's my best friend and business partner. I think it's been 10 years now, who has MS, but that wasn't my why initially. My why was just people deserved more, and these people were getting weaker, and everybody was just standing around, like almost like watching them deteriorate and stretching them. And I just kind of was like, that's bullshit to me. There's got to be something more. And even if there's not, at least we're trying, kind of thing. So a Google search, okay, guys.
Here we are. I didn't know this story because we don't get to hear these long versions of the story, and that's what I want. I want to hear this. So I had no idea, because how could I have known? I don't know. When we talk about all kinds of things that never came up. But so when you say I went through the back door, what is that like, really, like fly on the wall? What is the back door?
So initially, when I went to school for exercise science, my initial goal was to work with athletes. I'm not a great athlete. I'm like average at best. And it always fascinated me how people could move. And, in my first internship at a Division I school, I found as a woman, I either got hit on or ignored. Now, I don't want to make this about women or looks or anything about that. At that time, I didn't know, I didn't say it with my chest enough. Because now it's not a problem, but I think as a younger woman, I did not know how to navigate, and there was no role models to teach me how to navigate. So what I would do is kind of like dress down, wear no makeup. I would wear baggy clothes, but like I just didn't look the part of a professional. And for me, I kind of was like, I don't want to go to work every day to prove I'm competent. I want to go to work every day and they're like, oh, this is awesome, like really digging into it. And I can't blame anybody but myself. I didn't come correct to the job. I just didn't know. So for me, I initially got into Pilates because I'm like, hey, this is something interesting to me. At first, I didn't like Pilates, and I figured that out for myself in a way it worked for me. And I'm like, well, let me go through the back door and work with athletes, like with Pilates and that kind of thing. And when I did that, I did not enjoy it. I enjoyed working with my neuro clients more. You know, I still to this day, I work with some athletes, and if any of them watch, I love them, but I love my kids who are 20 years old, fell, something happened, brain injury, and we've got to relearn how to walk, talk, and move. That to me, I wake up every day and can't wait to do that. So with my credentials, I am not a physical therapist. I never wanted to be a physical therapist. I hated PT. I had to go when I was a kid because I had Osgood Schlatter's, or if you have an Irish Catholic mother, it's called growing pains. Am I a big person? Am I tall? I make you look. I'm tall next to you. That's why I like standing next to you. But I'm about 5'3". I had one big growth spurt, and it would cause a lot of knee pain. And PT did not help me at all. I was like, this is the most boring job. No offense, PTs. This is back in the day. So I hated it. I never wanted to be a PT. But because I didn't have those credentials, I kind of had to like prove I was the best. And still, I get pushback from all these like top neuro PTs and say what I do is not possible. And I'll show them in real time how I decrease spasticity and movement. Like, talk is cheap. There's a lot of people talking about neuroplasticity. There's a lot of people talking about change, but no one's actually doing it. So just my brain is like, I've got to find ways to implement it. Take the shit I learned in school, because we all talk. There's all this theory and evidence-based, but nobody can actually put it into practice. So when I said I'll come through the back door, I don't like research. I have to do it. I have PhDs that help me because Missy, I don't like doing research. I like doing the implementation. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to go this way. I'm going to go that way. Get people results. You can't deny this shit when it's happening in real time. So for me, the back door is just getting people results and kind of having fun along the way, which is another roadblock to my success that I had to overcome.
Okay.
I told this story yesterday. Am I jump? I'm going to jump. Can I jump? I'm bored with the other conversation. I'm leaping. What? Hold on. What do you call it? Because my mentees who were dancers were shocked that I could do this split thing. What is that called when you go with your legs?
A split leap?
Yes. A switch leap? Is that what it's called?
Switch leap. Yeah. I was like, what is it called? I can't even remember.
Offline, I'm going to show you.
You can do that?
With a visual strategy, Missy. I knew you'd love it. But anyway, so I'm going to leap over. I lead with humor. That is me, right? But because I've got freckles and I'm a goofball, a lot of people underestimated me. People still do, and I love it. Keep underestimating me. And I had a teacher, my second grade teacher. I still remember, I have a bad memory post-concussion and stuff, but I still remember this teacher. I used to do very well in school, but they wouldn't want to put me in the advanced classes because they said I couldn't handle it because I was too giggly, too laughy, wasn't paying attention. And my teacher said, Maggie, you can be smart and funny. You don't have to choose. And that's kind of something I've kept my whole career. I'm unfiltered. I curse. I make jokes. And a lot of people told me to stop doing that because I would be more successful if I led with my intellect and the technique, but it's not me. And I always just think that in the back of my mind, that you can be smart and funny. You don't have to choose. And I feel like I tend to lead with that, and I've used it to my advantage, because when people underestimate me because I crack a joke or I comment on this, or, we talk about stuff, they're underestimating me. I joke. I was talking to Shantae. I'm like, I move in the shadows, right? So it's been a curse and a blessing of being who you are is going to create roadblocks. People might not take you serious, or maybe you're a serious person. You don't use humor like that. And people say you're too serious. You're that. That's who you are. And I feel like you can be both those things. You can be pretty and smart and funny and smart, or all the things. It's really just not letting people fuck with you.
Yeah, I mean, this is a super interesting conversation, because when you said it has developed roadblocks for you, I'm thinking, well, what does she mean by this?
Oh, there's been a lot of opportunities where have come my way and have gone the other way. I can think one for an example, a big university. They wanted me to come lecture to all their PTs. And when I met with their PT, I got off the phone and I said to my husband, did I sound like a bitch there? He's like, no, I couldn't hear the other guy. And I was like, that man didn't like me because I stood up for myself. He basically told me, long story short, that we can't recommend the Neuro Studio because you give upper body exercises when people have foot drop. And I was like, well, shoulder girdle instability can really affect hip, blah, blah. I thought, but I kind of said it with my chest and stunk by it. And he did not like that I disagreed with him and had made a few jokes. He did not like my personality. And I wanted to diffuse the situation with a joke because I could tell it was getting heavy and I could tell I was bruising his ego. And I never heard from him again. And it was kind of a big deal, big opportunity. And I still think of this guy in the back of my mind because I look at where my business has gone and the help I've made. And I feel bad for all those students at that university because they could have learned some pretty cool shit if he wasn't so butthurt that I disagreed with him. So it was just kind of being from New Jersey and not letting someone push me around. And it's going to rub people the wrong way. I don't think I was rude at all. I also thought about it a lot after. And it was funny. Brian said to me, to my husband's name is, man, that's something I don't really think about. And that is a woman thing is, if you stand up for yourself, you ride that really thin line of being a bitch. But what I have found is there's a big difference. If you're being a bitch or you're being an ass, you are. But I think standing up for yourself and standing your ground is different. And I feel like there has to be a distinction. But I felt that pushback from women as well, It's all good.
But like you said, your husband said, I don't really think about that. And you're like, I'm still talking about it on a podcast how many years later, and I don't know if we're wired this way or maybe we are. I actually don't know this.
Yeah. And I think it's a combination, don't you?
I said this to someone recently. I was having a conversation with my girlfriend and her twin. And I said, a year and a half ago, I used to genuinely think making $100,000 a year was a lot of money. I believed that. It was a limiting belief that I had that I didn't even know was a limiting belief. Because I believed it, I thought it was true, right?
And it is a lot of money for some people or for anybody, but that's not you could do, if you wanted to, you could do more. Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
But I didn't know I could, or I have never tried, or what. It was like this matrix thing that I had to whatever. I was like, huh? Right. And then I hit that number
and more
with one launch.
Well, just because I know.
Right? And then you do it again and again. And this year I'm closing out at a number way far from that number, like 5-6 times more than that. Right. And I'm talking about this fear about it. Like, how come how come I'm not like bouncing off the walls? I'm more like, is this really mine? Is someone going to take this from me?
Well,
What if I
Uncle
can't
Sam will take
reproduce
some.
this?
Uncle Sam will take
Uncle
some. No,
Sam's
but
taking
listen, I
taking
always say we got to play Texas. My husband's we need teachers, cops, firefighters. We need all the things. But I think it more goes to Missy. I got to be honest. It's kind of my business philosophy. Is again, it's corny and people hate it, but I call it my Tom Brady philosophy. Now, I'm a New York Giants fan, right? So if you follow sports, we don't really like the Patriots, yeah?
Oh,
But
okay,
you
got it.
can't, Tom Brady to me is a fascinating case study. And watching Tom Brady win the Super Bowl time after time, and we see this with athletes all the time. I'm sure you experienced this with dance. I saw it. I wasn't there when my husband had a career-ending injuries, but I met him after, is the destination never feels as good as you think, right? It's just a thing. So like for me is I don't focus on the number, the end range, the target. I find when you stay in the process and like really dig into the minutia, and people are like, well, why don't you outsource that in your company? I'm like, outsource? This is the process. What I just said in 5 seconds that you got immediately, I've been working on for 15 years. Okay. So, students, listen, I've had people literally steal my work and teach it at conferences. And the reason I know is because my people ride hard and they'll be like, yo, do you know this person? I'm like, yeah, they just took my course last year. Okay. It happens, but I don't care because what I just said that resonated with you and lit you up. I've been saying that and dissecting it for 15, maybe more. So this person will always be 15 years behind me. Now, that's not to say I'm 15, I'm probably 15 years behind her on something she's doing. It's to me, when I stay focused on the process, it doesn't make me scared about those numbers. And I feel like I've been in predicaments where I've had more money, less money, and I have a dad who's a finance accounting guy, and he always said, if you make $1 million and spend 1.1 million, you broke. If you make $40,000 a year, Meg, and you only spend 30, you have more money than that millionaire. So it just always resonates for me of with our businesses is like you made that money because you're like in there in the process. You're filming social media every day. You really bring people into your life, right? Like that's not just because of anything. And it's Kim Kardashian got in trouble for this, for telling people to work harder, didn't she? There was like
Oh,
some sort of quote. Now, Kim
yeah,
Kardashian
it
does
was
have
like,
a
I
lot of
don't
privilege.
care, work
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have privilege in ways that other people did, But what's interesting is I feel like in every unique situation, whatever you're doing is like being in the process and working hard. I don't know. I feel like it's the answer nobody wants to hear, but it's how I've been doing this for 24 years. And man, I used to get real freaking burnt out, really burnt out. Where I sold my studio to work for my dad in insurance for 4 months. I don't know if you're listening because you can't see my face, but yeah. Yeesh.
It's a bad face.
Yeah. So, I
I mean, it was
love
good you
that.
did that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you would have known. And my dad I had great business role models. He was such a good boss, where if you did something wrong, he'd tell you. Very direct. This is a man who I never heard yell. And then I worked for him. I'm like, whoa. But if you did something good, he would like tell you 30 times. And if you did something bad, you did it. He would say, okay, don't do that. Don't send an email without an attachment. Like, and then it was over. So he was very direct. And I think that's the other thing is being direct is off-putting to people because they're so used to passive aggressive, And I feel like you and I
Yeah,
have a good relationship. Yeah.
sugar coaty, nice, like
But like we were going to do that course and it just didn't work out because both of us were so freaking busy. But it's like, all right, how can this benefit you and how can this benefit me? Like, I think people are afraid to talk about what they really need, right? So it's like, they're like trying to be coy. It's like, no, like I really need more outreach and you need this. Like, how can we help each other? You know, I'm working on how to still be direct, but find a softer approach for people who need a softer approach. You know,
Now, it's interesting because I hear you say that you're direct and straightforward. I'm from freaking Jersey, right?
am I actually passive aggressive? No,
Well, you're not passive, but my experience as someone who receives on this end, I don't know if you're as harsh as you maybe perceive yourself. I don't find you overly direct or
well, we've had personal,
or is it?
and it's so funny. You know, it's a good thing you bring it up because, like me as a younger woman, my sister was more direct. We're 18 months apart. I was kind of I don't want to say a pushover, but I kind of take in a lot sensory wise, especially from people. I'm not empathetic, but I have like deep levels of sympathy. And like I can put myself in other people's shoes, which sounds like empathy, but I'm not actually empathetic. I'm a little harder on people, but how I explain myself now is, listen, I'd prefer you to like me. Like people who say, oh, I don't care if you like me. They're all full of shit, right? I'd prefer you to like me. But if you don't, I'm going to move on. Where Meghann, when I was younger, I felt like I had this like pull that I had to morph and pretzel into everything everybody needed. And I'm kind of that person in my family. Like if mom's upset, send Meghann in. If Kim's in a bad mood, send Meghann in. But I've created that role for myself. So it's funny. I actually said to my students, I was like, I feel like I'm super approachable. And they just went, and I was like, what? And they're like, you're intimidating and not approachable. And I was like, I was shocked by that. Right. So I realized as I stepped into my own self and really knew who I was and like leaned into it, for a better word, is it was easier to stand in that. So it wasn't that I was intimidating to people. What it really was is there was respect there. So people didn't mess with me. Right. But I feel like when you get to know me, it kind of gets broken down pretty soon. I'm not afraid to let people in, but I'll also create a boundary and tell you if what you're doing is not working for me. I had to do it last weekend to a student and I think she received it, but it was a tough conversation,
Okay, so obviously we're not saying names, but can you like walk us through that? Like what was this situation where you
let me talk about, I don't want to talk about that situation out of her privacy.
Yeah.
But there has been situations, I think a better use of our time would be, honestly, is being okay without like showing up perfectly. Like, for example, it's tough balance we have a lot of students and we have proprietary information. I am teaching that because I want it to be shared with the world. I don't want everybody saying, I learned this from Meghann Koppele. Like, that's not what it is. I just want to make sure the methodology, the assessment doesn't lose its gusto because this is what happens. So 2 things is I want you to utilize, hop on my back, I'll take you with me. But if I feel like you are saying things out of my mouth verbatim that I just said in a meeting and not crediting in a way, that becomes a hard balance. And there's been times with students, there's been times with students I've had to address it and usually it's received. And in one instance, there was pushback and it wasn't received. And we talked through it. And I thanked that student for letting me go through the process because I don't think I showed up as my best. I think I was more defensive because I kind of let it go instead of being direct about it right up front when something happened to clear up. Because I really don't believe she was doing it maliciously. There was just confusion. And I feel like when there's vague confusion, that's where things go wrong. So to me, the biggest thing is, as a boss, as a mentor, I can pop off or say the wrong thing or snap at you because I am not perfect, right? And then I can say, oh, I'm sorry. I came in with the wrong energy there. Is it okay if we shift gears? And her giving me, us actually hearing each other. So to me, the moral lesson is, when you have adversity with people, is just being honest about how you feel and admitting when you stepped over, right? I kind of was like, when I think about it, I think I came in hot there. I don't like how I came in, right? And then just kind of bringing people there. To me, I feel like I'm a little all over the place with this because I kind of haven't told a linear story. But the biggest mistake I've made in business, two times. When I first sold my studio, I was having health issues and struggling, and I'm selling a business. Clients were upset when I sold my studio because I didn't tell them, because I had built such a friendly relationship with them, right? But I'm like, this is a business. If I told that I was selling it, it could have affected the person who was buying the studio. You see what I'm saying? But I think I could have dealt with it better. Number two, when I was asked to teach overseas, they had asked me before our business really took off. I was vague in my ask, okay? I was vague for a reason, because I was nervous they would say no. So when I did the pricing and the per head, it read a little vague looking back. That was out of fear that they were going to say no. They did not say no. And in fact, they doubled the amount of people they had. So I felt taken advantage of, and then I had to kind of go back on my word. And I don't like that. I stand by my word. And it's still something I think about, and it all goes down to fear. I was fearful of how people were going to react and what they would say. So I was vague, right? And every time I'm vague in business or vague in discussions, there becomes a breakdown in communication, right? So when you're direct and say what you actually need, if the person doesn't want it, then you at least know and you can move on. And I see this with my students a lot, and it's mostly out of scarcity and fear of why they do that. I had to learn that lesson, and everybody listening, if you're still listening, maybe you're bored of me already, you'll have to learn those lessons. But for me, we talk about being authentic. That's easy sometimes. To me, I think a bigger problem with authenticity is we're not really honest about what we need, and we're a little vague about and fearful of how things will respond. Not everybody. I did it. I see it a lot. So having the courage to say what you mean and be okay with that, you might not say the right thing.
And the response you get might be a literal, well, no thanks then. And you have to be okay with that. No, thank you. Because if you say yes and it's not a yes for you, that is just resentment city.
Isn't that the worst? It's
the worst. Why did I do that is a whole thing, So two things with this. So I would say I'm old enough to know this lesson from various different angles, but I get asked by a very large company, what's your in-person day rate? Okay, let's all just think about this question for a second. And you get this email and you're like, I could literally say any number that I want to, right? Like, really, you could say $500, you could say 50,000. Like, I don't know. Like, what's your day rate? So I phone all the friends. Here's what my normal day rate is. But here's my day rate when I'm working with a professional athlete. Here's my day rate when I'm speaking, because that's different than working on a person. Here's this. Right? Whatever.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. I was vague about my rate because I was scared they would say no. Now, mind you, this was 8 years ago. No, maybe 6 years ago.
Right, but the lesson
huge.
So well.
Huge.
It did you so well. But so I come back with a number that I feel really good about. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be transparent because that's what the whole podcast is about. I go, it's $5,000 for my in-person day rate. It's a speaking gig. I know that speaking gigs, people that speak for like an hour can charge like 20 grand or what, all these.
You don't have to make an excuse. You're worth it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm phoning all kinds of people in Silicon Valley and all whatever. They're like, 5 grand's not very much money. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well,
And did they say yes immediately?
well, here's the thing. No.
Oh.
Right? They actually, so there's more details to the story, but they're like, okay, that's a lot higher than we expected because of the stage that we are offering you, the exposure that comes with it, the monetary blah blah blah.
Everybody loves to say, oh, the exposure. Hey,
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
got a lot of exposure. I got a lot of exposure. How is that affecting my bottom line?
How does that pay my mortgage? Okay, no.
Exposure does not pay the bills.
Yeah, so it's not like this happy ending story. It eventually it kind of becomes one, but the moral of it is I said the number that I felt really good about and I got a no. And it's you have to start somewhere. And they came back and said that doesn't work for us. It's literally not in our budget. And they were this and that. We talked back and forth. We got on a phone call, a FaceTime, Zoom call, I mean. We got on a Zoom. We face-to-faced about it, agreed on a much lower number based on XYZ. Then I felt good about the agreement. But without those 30 little talks in between, I wouldn't have felt good about the number.
And listen, nothing I love more. I love a negotiation. Something I was taught. I think we talked about this at lunch. With a negotiation, the first one to speak loses. So you say, oh, 5 grand a day.
And you wait.
Right? And what's so interesting is what happened in my instance, I kind of went middle. And they said yes immediately. So if they say yes immediately, you probably could have asked for more, right? But I always say to my students, if you need, say, $100 an hour, right? Don't ask for $100 an hour. Ask for $150 an hour. And they'll say, oh, we were thinking 70. Well, I'm 150, you're 70. We can meet at 100. So it's like, I always say to people, always, whatever your number is, go above it. Because even though they said no, they still came back to negotiate. They wanted you. So let's figure out how we can get you at the price they want. It's nobody's going to say no and say, oh my God, that person was ridiculous.
No,
right?
They don't say no. Our relationship is over. It's
no.
Okay, that actually is not in our budget. And we had so many little talks until we agreed upon it. And then now I feel good about every gig that I have, right? Because I agreed to very specific, not vague terms.
Yeah,
so it's
I
really
love that.
Interesting.
I also see that in friendships. And I mean, my husband and I have been together since I think 2011. I always forget what year we got married because we met on July 4th. So I always think of that as our anniversary. I think it was 2017, May 19th. I'm bad with birth. If I forget your birthday or anybody's birthday, don't get mad.
I'm the worst.
But I find even with communication with spouses, friends, is like a lot of times people are like, do you need any help? No, obviously I need help. So like we have a thing like I'm having a day, like he knows to step in or do this. And currently right now I am getting my doctorate. So I was kind of overwhelmed. We had this new business thing launching and I had a big project for my doctorate. And I was like, and I'm a laundry person, Brian is not. And all of a sudden I look and he's doing laundry. So I find we being direct about like what you actually need in a relationship. Now, don't get wrong. I'll be like, stop talking to me in that tone. Like, I'm not trying to say we have this perfect marriage here, but it's been so helpful in all aspects of life. And I feel helpful. Like I'm not very open in my personal life, not for any reason, but I feel like I like to save some things. Like my family is the most important. I post about my niece and nephew a lot. They're like literally my world, and my dogs. But what really keeps me grounded in work and business is that family stuff. And when I come home from a big course or a trip and big things happen, like they don't give a shit. It's Aunt Megan's here, right? So it kind of keeps a big separation for me to like not forget who I am or where I came from. And that kind of the directness and the telling people what you need comes. My best friend and cousin passed away. What year was it? 2014. Yeah, or no, excuse me, 2013. And the last time I saw him was at Thanksgiving, and he was there late because he was a chef, and he showed up late because he had to cook for another family. And I was annoyed he was late, and I was tired. So I went home. And that was the last conversation we had. So I always say is tell people, be direct, and show up. Because the showing up, the being part of the process is make sure you're living. Because as we're living, things just kind of pass us by. So that moment in my life was very shifting of instead of, I can't wait till tomorrow, that doesn't matter, is kind of like, no, this does matter, right? Let me do this right now. Let me say this right now. Let me be direct with this person so they know where I stand. Because I know it's kind of, I always say, nothing's as important. I used to say this all the time. Nobody died, right? Like if your client's not reflexively stable and they're in a gripping pattern and their spasticity increases, nobody died, right? To bring it into a more like calming level. But in that same thing is we're only given this shit. We're once around the block. Although I do believe in past lives, and this is my second female life. So we could talk about that in another podcast, past lives. Fascinating. Mm-hmm. But in this life, I want to be as present as I am, you know, taking my niece to Taylor Swift in Munich for an overnight. I knew I was going to be tired. And it was, people like my sister's like, I cannot believe you're spending this money. And I'm like, why? I don't have kids. This is a core memory. And I said to my niece, this is Christmas and birthday for the next, don't get it twisted. But like being present and doing those things to me is the most important. And I think you do also a great job of work-life balance, but I see a lot of people losing themselves in the work and stuff like that. Like it's just remember who your whys are, because if you're so caught up in all this shit, it just kind of blows by, to not go down a different path. But that's really what I'm here. And I want to show my niece and nephew that like my sister is an awesome mother. She worked, she's a mom. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, decided to go back to work. Like, I like that, but I do feel like I see a lot of my friends who are working moms. There's a big push-pull. And I remember a conversation I had with my sister. She's like, I feel like you judge me because I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I said, no, there's one person in this room judging you, and it's not me, right? I could never do what she does. I know I couldn't. I know my mental health. I know my capacity. So I feel like I want my niece and nephew, more so my niece, to know that you can be a boss. You can have a really financially successful company and not have kids and have a happy life. But you could also have a successful company and have kids and have that. Or you can be a mom, which is the most important job to me, which is an unpaid job, the hardest job, and just do that. I just feel like, to me, I like that you can be funny and smart. You can be whatever you kind of want. It's a little corny for me. It's a little corny. Can you see I'm a little uncomfortable? I'm like Chandler Bing. I make jokes when I'm uncomfortable.
I love it. I'm, as I age with kids, right? I am so clear about where my priorities are. People don't realize this, but I see that you show that, you live that. I feel that from you, even before I met you in person. You do.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you. I try. It's like I would say I'm successful in business, but it's at 3:30. I'm a mom. I'm a mama. And people do not realize that I do not check my phone from 3:30 p.m. until literally the next day.
And is that a
Because
boundary you set
it
so to
is.
keep it because, oh, if I check it once?
It's honestly, it's miserable if you try to do anything with the kids around. It's so much suffering for everyone involved, right? Because if I'm pretending to mom, but like, I really need to shoot this text, I really need to respond to this comment on
And it's
Instagram, I
never
really
going to
need to
be good.
write this
Yeah.
email. It's that's rushed. My kids are clawing at my legs, screaming, crying, I'm hungry, whatever, staining my clothes, whatever they're doing. Or my husband is overwhelmed with having the 2 kids because I'm trying to write an email. The whole thing, let me tell you, I've tried it, right? I've been a mom for 4 years. Okay.
Yeah. You're
It's
getting more
not a long
efficient
time.
at it.
I'm getting better. I'm starting to learn. So it is genuinely easier to be a mom for this time slot. And the second they leave for school, I transition, I do whatever, and then I run a business from morning until 3:30. And when I think about it, that feels like a solid amount of time to me. That's
I love it.
plenty of hours. That's plenty of hours to run a business. Why do we need more than that, right? If you're efficient
It
with your
used to be
time.
that. Like, I think of my dad when I was a kid, like, he would go to work and come home. That's something I am personally struggling right now with being back at school. And I said to my husband, like, after this week, because I was traveling and seeing clients last week. So when I'm in California, everything's like, jumbled up. And my time that I was supposed to get work, I got a tattoo instead, for
Yeah.
priorities. But I got to go back to when I shut my phone off. Like, I like to have my mornings to myself and then I get into the flow. I've lost that since September. And I mean, it's showing I look at my face. I'm like, oh my God, my face is so like small. I'm like, I didn't eat breakfast yesterday until like 7 p.m. But it was all because of my disorganization. Also, podcast people, we had a flea situation at my house with my dogs that took a precedent over me eating. But that's something I also want to say with business people is you're going to ebb and flow. Like me, I'm like so regimented. I've got like shit went when I started my doctorate again in September in such a big way that the wheels came off the bus. The wheels totally came off the bus. But I
Yeah.
put the wheels back on. I'm filling the tires this weekend, but I love that 3:30 cutoff time. Mine used to be 5 p.m. It's been like 9:30, 10 p.m., which I know is not good. But I love that you set that boundary. That kind of helps. That's going to motivate me to get it going a little bit. Sometimes
Yeah.
hearing somebody else doing it, it's like, you can do it. You're just making excuses, Meghann. I
Yeah.
am not, I always say I'm very busy, but not that important. Come on.
Yeah. It's tough, right? So here's the thing. You now you infuse this doctorate into your current schedule. It's your newborn. That's your newborn
Well, I
baby.
don't
And
have to keep it alive. It's
you don't have to, kind of, but
well,
but you do have to reorient to this new thing, but you get to be responsible for that and go, okay, it's been since September. What do I need to harmonize my schedule with my energy? I need my mornings back. Okay, great. Let's work backwards from there. How do you get your mornings back? You got to do this, the day before? What do you have to do before that? Oh, you have to freaking meal prep. I know you hate cooking. So what are you going to do about it?
girl, I'm struggling. I need to, I'm putting it out in the universe. And one of my clients is like, Meg, you probably can afford it. You just have to balance your expenses. I need like a cook, someone to come in and make meals. I hate cooking. It's a stress for me. I will do anything else. I will scrub your toilet. Like, that's how much I hate
Literally.
cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I don't mind a toilet. I'm good with toilets.
That's the thing. I don't hate toilets either.
Isn't that weird?
Your cooking is my laundry.
I love laundry. Oh my God. Have you seen me fold a fitted sheet? Love it.
No.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm coming to your house. I'm going to do all your laundry. You're going to cook for me.
When we get off of this, I'm going to show you a picture of my bedroom.
I'm coming. I'm on my way to Phoenix. You know why I love laundry? It's start to finish. You get like something that makes me happy is completion. Completing a product.
Complete my laundry.
Yes, exactly. So it's just, I'm like having it's
You're having hot
we start menopause young in my family. It's the hot flashes. It's a joy.
Yeah.
But no, I love that you're having these conversations because it's like, yeah, you can be kicking ass, but have a bad day, right? You could be loving your life and having financial things. It's like, there's got to be this kind of honest balance. And honestly, my only advice to business owners is treat people how you want to be treated. I don't see enough of that. I'm going to get on my soapbox. I feel like I've been very freaking preachy today. But I don't see a lot of people want support on social media, but I don't see them supporting others. I comment on all my students, whatever I see. Anytime I see something, I try to stay off social media. Scrolling is not good for my concussion eyes, but I always tag me. I feel like we all need to support each other. Missy and I are in a similar field. Her light shining bright is just going to put more spotlight on me too. It doesn't diminish, it doesn't squash my light. If anything, you getting people more into neuro, fuck, that's amazing for everybody else doing things with a neuro umbrella. And I just want to see more support of that and less. Maureen Koppele, I want everybody to think of my mother. If you see something on social media you don't like, go do something else. Because whether you like it or not, it takes a lot of time, energy, and fucking guts to put shit on social media. Right, Missy? And your negative comment or your passive-aggressive question, we know what you're getting at. We're not stupid, okay? Or repeating back what we wrote in the caption, we see you. But there was a lot of effort into that. So if you don't like what we post, just go do something else, right? Agreed?
You're like, just move your finger another inch.
It's so weird to me. Like, I was telling the story when someone wrote that negative comment and I was like, Missy, I wrote something totally inappropriate. You can delete it. Because that guy was just coming at, and then I kind of was like, this is evidence. I'll give it to you right here. And then he went back and I was like, your micro penis is showing. And then I was like, you can delete that if you want.
And I was like, no.
I was like trying to be nice. And then I was like, you have pushed me too far. Yeah. I thought that was funny.
That's interesting too. Cause I admire that aspect of you a lot, of the 0 F's jersey, like chest puffed up, and I've learned a lot online of just honestly just rewording stuff in a way to lessen what could come back at you, really.
I'm very careful of my words. Yeah. But I also think
now
Missy, it's a different, you have a wider my audience is a little smaller. It's a little more niche. So you're going to get more of that. I think at the end of the day, those people do not know me at all. They know nothing about me. They don't know what happened yesterday. They don't know what's happening right now. They don't know I might have a sick parent or this or that, like all these things. So their opinion of me has zero effect on me. Now, I'm not going to lie and say I don't care. I do care. I do very much care when someone disrespects my work, disrespects one of my people or my friends, but they have zero effect on me. And that's always where I let it sit. Don't get it twisted though. I love a witty, when you get someone, you're like, ooh, like that, your micro penis is showing. Like, I just have to throw that out there. And it's always people with no followers. So if you have something so important to say it. It's just
that's
so
that
funny.
Denzel quote. Like,
that's my favorite quote.
It's
Nobody
never from
punches
someone.
down, they always punch up, meaning nobody doing more than you will ever critique you.
Ever.
Ever.
Ever. It just doesn't work like that. So to wrap up,
Yeah. What did
if
we
you
cover
could,
today?
so many things. We'll let the AI summarize it for us so we don't have to waste brain cells.
Sorry,
But
guys. I'm jet lagged. My dogs have fleas. I did my best.
I don't prep my guests. I just throw them on. No, but
but I
really,
wanted to give you a little bit of an insight. It's just, like you said, it's interesting. It's hard to throw a lifetime. Also, like, some of the stories are, a bit boring.
well, yeah, here's the thing. I want my listeners to hear the real deal behind the bios you see online and what you're actually like and why you're doing it. You know what I loved? What I loved from this was you said know who your whys are.
Mm.
I don't know if you know that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it wasn't just like what's your why. You said know
No.
who your whys
Yeah.
are. And that's super, super powerful. So
I want my family to get the best of me. And I think at times in life, they didn't get the best of me. They got the pieces, the scraps, the moody, the happy. I want them to, they're my people. I give out all this great stuff to people. My people deserve the best of me. And that's really my why. And also, to make a few people laugh along the way. And what my doctorate is focusing on is we've got to improve the education of movement professionals. Okay. I'm studying, just so you know, the backwards model of education. It's an education model that's used in the classroom. It's not easy implementation, but I'm bringing it to the movement industry with, again, a huge focus on the cerebellum, but looking at, we dictate what people do. Oh, give them this exercise for that. No. How is their body responding in real time? What do they need? So it's actually a backwards model, not a forward model. And we're seeing the forward model of education failing a little bit for many students. So again, although we talked about business, I did want to put that in there, that if you're interested in learning more, want to be a part of the journey, want to help me out, want to help Missy out, where we kind of go a little bit against the grain, is, the more the merrier. There's more seats at the table, and the better discussion we can have, the better the work gets, in my opinion.
yes, agreed.
So I'm
Absolutely.
grateful for your friendship and your ear. When I get out there next time, I'm going to be throwing a lot. Hey, what do you think about this? Because shit needs to change. Shit needs to change.
And you're doing something about it. So thank you.
And thank you.
Before
You're doing it too.
Get off. What is one thing you would tell your younger self, if you could? Tell your young Meghann self something.
My young Meghann self is stay the course. Stay the course. Stay the course. I am terrible at sayings, guys. My students and business partner have a book of sayings I say backwards, but there is a saying about something about pressure creates diamonds, or I don't know what the hell the saying is. You know what I mean? I really think stay the course. Ride over those bumps. When it rains, it pours only if you don't have an umbrella. If you think everything's happening to you, you're not looking around. Stay the course.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Missy. I love you.
Thanks for being here. Love you. See you soon.